Chapter City Council, Tuesday, March the 15th, 2022. Let the record show members of the council present with the exceptions of Councilmember Espinoza. And I'll lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. City Council, Tuesday, March the 15th, 2000. Are we okay? Yes, we're good. Just keep going. And invocation will be led by Councilmember Lopez. You're not doing that? Okay.
No, I'll do it. It's fine.
That's all right. I'm done. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day you've given us. I thank you for allowing us to be in this place. And I just ask for wisdom and guidance in the decisions that we will make and the conversations that we will have. We thank you for your love and blessings that you've put over the city. Continue to bless the city as we move forward. We thank you and love you. Amen. Amen.
Approval of agenda.
No changes?
No changes.
Make a motion to approve as read.
I'll second it.
Came out of left field there.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gibbons, seconded by Councilmember Lopez to approve as printed.
Yes.
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 Yes. Public comment. Anyone in the audience care to address the council may come forward at this time. Name and address. Hearing none. Nothing tonight. Hearing none. No public comment time. Council announcements and reports. Who wants to start?
I could start, but there's nothing to report at this time. Appreciate it.
I think I'm back among the living. It's been a great last few weeks. We had a great couple shows, and hopefully you guys were able to come out and see the shows over at the theater. And glad to be back here and not thinking about the show for a second. Otherwise, nothing else to report.
No, I was just looking at my notes here. I did attend the Current Cog Awards at the Country Club, Seven Oaks. We had Mentor Field. My mind went blank. What's his
Ronald Pierce.
Ron Pierce, yes. He got awarded for his duties for being somebody who just kept on going and not giving up on his vision and his desire just to keep history going and preserving history. And there's a lot of history in that area there, and the airport and the Mentor Field. So I've known Ron for quite some time, and he's a very caring person, and he does a lot for the community, and he participates even in different events here in our core city. So I just want to say congratulations, Ron, again for all your service. And I think that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few things. Yeah, I was at the regional awards too, and it was really quite interesting. A good crowd of people represented all throughout the county. Some in the desert area and some over in Taft, and it was nice to be there. And Ron was really appreciative. He had his family there. Community involvement's always been big, even in his previous generations. I mean, his dad was very involved too. So it was a fun evening for him and his family. Also, I went to a community task force on the 9th, and just a couple things that they, get my pages up here. They're really pretty active. There are baseball signups going on right now. Day camp for the young kids of our school is being worked on and planned at this time, and it'll be held at Golden Oak. Easter egg hunt's coming up, and it will be on a drive-through. It's kind of interesting. It's not like we grew up like the Easter egg hunt, but they will give out Easter eggs, and it was successful when they did it during the pandemic time too. And also sunrise service that's going to be held with Kiwanis will happen on that Easter day. Also, there on the 2nd of April, there's a roadside cleanup that Kiwanis is doing. They've committed on a 2-year project with Caltrans. And if you didn't know already, Caesar's Pizza right here cleans from this part going east, or however you want to call it, south, and then they're going to pick up Kiwanis is picking up all the way to Jack Avenue going on this other side. So that'll be an interesting project for 2 years that we'll see Shafter people involved in. Also, there is a Great American Cleanup at the end of April, but there is also a American Refuse is doing a bulk pickup and e-waste on April the 2nd. Are we part of that one too, Michael?
Yes, we're promoting it. And we'll,
Yeah.
have a presence there.
Yeah, and we do it over by the pool, right?
Correct.
Yes, that one we need to keep track of. Okay, then came, there were lecture series that are being done with Stan Wilson from the Depot, who is really very interested in history, as Gilbert was even saying, people in our community that have given so much. And he did one this week at the Learning Center on the centennial cards, the celebration that we had. Don, you were there, huh? Yeah, it was really quite nice. He went through all the cards and a lot of good history of the pictures that have, and they still have decks of cards available. They're $5 a deck, and you can get one if you're interested at the Depot. The next one will be on April the 14th, and he's going to speak on German prisoners of World War II, which Shafter did house here. And then on May the 12th will be the potato capital world of Shafter, which Shafter was known for that in earlier years. Also, I attended a policy council committee meeting on the 11th, and it was a special meeting. The discussion had to do with monies that could be allotted for the valley. And Merced was already working on a project for inland port, and they wanted us to go to Sacramento, which this coming Friday and the next Friday, we are going to be doing presentations to the legislators. And they wanted to, Merced wanted to be the most, to ask for money to come for inland port. But the consensus from the group was to just let the money come, whatever project comes up, and not promote just a project. So that was a consensus with the group. Also, I should mention this. Shafter's been good about doing car shows, and I was invited to go on the 12th, which was this past Saturday. The car show that was held out here at Don Metler's home with Freeman Nixon involved. And we did the mayor's choice, and it was a nice disc of wheels that they painted to remember the car show. And I could choose any car I wanted. Oh, Don was there, so he knows. It was really fun. People come from out of the area, Delano. I believe there were some from Wasco, Bakersfield, Shafter. And it's really a time that everyone likes to be together and talk. And, you know, you can stand by your car, or you can wander around it. I've done it before, but I never gave a presentation. It was really fun. It was a nice day. It was a perfect day, as a matter of fact. And so I gave mine to a 1938 Chevy, which happened to belong to a Shafter resident, Dale Sperling's car. And he was quite surprised to receive the award. It was fun. And then also last night we did the AB 617 here. Rob Ball from Kerncog, who is a planning director, he came forward and he gave a report on the cargo study. They finished phase 1. They're applying for a grant 2. And he needed to get some comments from the citizens of the group. And he really raised a lot of questions and concerns because they didn't know really what it meant. They didn't know what to say, and they were not very happy about responding. So he's going to come back next week or next month and do a further presentation and send out some materials in advance so that they understand what he's looking for and what they might respond to all of that. I think that's all I have down for notes. Oh, I did go to Newsies. There it is.
There you go.
Yeah, Newsies presented 6 different times, 4 in the evening and 2 in the afternoon on Sunday. Lots of people in the cast. If you're interested in looking through some of the names that are there. Very, very much fun. Lots of dancing, lots of singing, and a really good story connected to Newsies. It had a good message for everybody, and it was fun. Matter of fact, I went twice. Yeah, I did. I went twice. It was fun. Okay, that's all I have. Now, if I get my right papers back up here, let's start. Next item is a consent calendar. And the consent calendar consists of 13 items. They first cover the general checks for the month of March up to date, payroll, overtime minutes. And we're going to approve a special event permit for Cinco de Mayo for promotional rally and festival at Mantle Park for April the 30th. We also have a special event permit for a Ventura Circus at Mantle Park the end of this month, March the 29th to April the 5th. Now, they don't have the circus every night. They have the circus 4 nights, I believe, of all those days. Is set up and take down.
Is it the one, that's not from Kiwanis, is it?
No, I asked that too. No, I don't think so. The next item was to adopt a resolution number 2852, initiating proceedings for the annual levy and collection of assessments within existing city landscaping and lighting districts. Number 8 is to accept temporary road dedication for Verdugo Road bypass from Lennar Homes of California for the Gossamer Grove development. Number 9 is to accept the public improvement associated with the traffic signal that's constructed at the intersection of 7th Standard Road and the West Beltway. Number 10, accept bids received for the purchase of 2 dump trucks from Jimberg Ford in the amount of $182,455.34. 11 is accept bids received for the purchase of 1 mini excavator to Sequoia Equipment in the amount of $56,398.49. Number 12 is to ratify a professional service agreement with Kearney Business Technology Center for technical information support in the amount of $24,000. And number 13 is to adopt resolution number 2855, authorizing continued need for teleconferencing option for City Council, Planning Commission, and committee meetings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361. Any questions? We entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve as read.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gibbons, seconded by Councilmember Lopez to approve as read.
Yes.
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 Yes. First item is public hearings, first read of ordinance number 733 to amend the Shafter Municipal Code Title 5, which is business licenses, business taxes, license and regulations to streamline permits that require live scan services from the Shafter Police Department.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, this is your city manager via Zoom. The next 2 staff reports will be presented by Steve, our planning director. The first item is related to some cleanup language in the city ordinance. And then the second item is the development agreement for an existing tentative track map, track number 6491. So with that, Steve.
Thank you, City Manager, Honorable Council. My name is Steve Esselman. I am your planning director. And yes, this is some proposed Title V revisions to help streamline permits requiring live scan services from the Shafter Police Department.
There we go.
There it is. Okay, so the current conditions for in Title V regarding live scan is that peddlers, food, vehicle vending, and sidewalk vending permits currently require a live scan services and are routed directly to the Shafter Police Department once the application is submitted. The Shafter Police Department, in discussing them, and just to let you know, it was sort of the Shafter Police Department that said, "Hey, Steve, can we talk about this and maybe revise this process a little bit?" The Shafter Police Department, is not really designed to accept applications and to process fees and those sorts of things. It's more of a function that's better served over here at City Hall with the existing facilities that we have here now. These permits are primarily land use based. Really, the only thing that the planning department or the city manager's office or anyone here in City Hall can't do is the actual live scan itself, which is basically a background check. We think that in discussions with Shafter Planning, the chief, deputy chief, and now retired Captain Bell, who was very instrumental in doing this, we decided that it would probably be more efficient to process these certain permits through the planning department and then route them to the Shafter Police Department for live scan services. And so the Shafter Planning Department requested that planning investigate a new process. Can you click to the next one? Oh, it works now? Oh, I see. It's not doing it. Okay, I don't know why this doesn't like me, but it doesn't. It doesn't seem to ever want to work. Okay. Go ahead and go to the, is that the next slide? Okay, so here are the Shafter Police Department's concerns. There's really no agreement by the applicant to be subject to a live scan in the first place. It just sort of happens. There's no attestation form saying we will, we willingly submit to live scan. For food vending vehicles, the Shafter Police Department currently inspects the vehicles. It's actually codified in the ordinance that they are to inspect the vehicles, and Shafter Police showed some reluctance due to the fact that they don't necessarily have that kind of expertise to effectively inspect vehicles. There's some redundancy and confusion regarding roaming and stationary sidewalk vendors. It's actually a bit redundant and could be eliminated. And then there's also these prohibitive buffers that eliminate the ability to effectively engage in the activity for which the permit is sought, especially regarding food vending vehicles and peddlers permits. And we'll talk a little bit more of that in a second. Could you switch to the next slide, please? So based on all of this back and forth between planning and the Shafter Police Department, we came up with some recommendations, and those are so small I can't read them without my glasses. So basically, the Shafter Police Department and planning work together on these, and Shafter, the police department has actually already looked at these revisions and provided feedback, and then we finalized. What we have essentially done is, instead of applications going to the Shafter Police Department, they're going to get routed initially to planning, and then planning will send to the Shafter Police Department for live scan, essentially, to determine whether they have some sort of a criminal record, which would not make them eligible for the permit. The revisions codified signing a consent agreement to be subject to live scan. That again was another concern of the Shafter Police Department. They didn't have something saying that the person willingly submits to live scan. The revisions strike language regarding the police department inspecting vehicles, and instead just requires a California Vehicle Code adherence to vehicle operation and maintenance. So it takes the liability from the Shafter Police Department and places the burden upon the applicant. You need to make sure your vehicle is properly maintained and can be operated safely. The revision removes distinctions between, like I said, roaming and stationary sidewalk vendors for clarity. And finally, and this is the one that is one that Captain Bell and I actually worked on, was the idea of buffers. There are certain buffers in the ordinance that seem to be so large that they essentially prohibit the activity for which the permit is sought. Essentially, if you were to overlay the buffers around everything, there would be no place really for you to be able to do this activity. So what we decided to do is take buffers around parks and schools for peddlers and food vehicle vending from 1,000 to 200 feet. You can't be any closer than 200 feet rather than 1,000. From 500 to 100 feet between food vending vehicles, and from 1,000 to 500 feet between any enclosed restaurant and food vending vehicle. Those are the only changes to the buffers. Go ahead. And finally, so what the staff recommends is that we conduct a hearing. We introduce for first reading by title only and waive reading for ordinance number 733, which amends Title 5, the Streamline permits requiring live scan as discussed in this presentation. And with that, I'm open to any questions you may have.
Any questions? Otherwise, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone care to address council may come forward in for or against ordinance number 733. Hearing none, close the public hearing. Are there any questions that we thought of?
None for me.
No?
I would like to make a motion to approve as read.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gibbons, seconded by Councilmember Lopez to approve first reading, title only, waive the reading of ordinance number 733.
Nope, not here.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, the second item is the development agreement number 21-20 for tentative track number 6490.
Yes, Honorable Council, this is development agreement number 2120 for tentative track 6490. The tract, go ahead and do the next one, please. The tract is a 29-acre site that has 107 single-family residential lots, ranging in size from about 7,000 to 18,500 square feet in lot size. The development agreement, which you guys have seen before, is slightly different than the other development agreements we have brought forward to the council, in that we added some new verbiage to these development agreements. Namely, there's a traffic impact fee of up to 10,000 per residential unit. This was sort of a way to go high while the Nexus study is being completed. And then if the Nexus study comes up with a different number, we would amend the number. But this was to give a placeholder and some assurance to the applicant of what the outside amount would be per residential unit. So there is a 10,000 per dwelling unit fee for traffic impact, up to 5,000 fee per unit for park impacts. And there's also, and this is something you've seen before, there is also a formation of a landscape and lighting maintenance district. But this is also somewhat new. There's also the formation of a communities facilities district for police and fire protection. Go ahead and go to the next one. Yeah, so this is the actual site, just to give you a sense of where this tract is located and the development agreement that would be placed upon it. Go ahead and go to the next one. This is the actual tract itself. And go ahead and go to the next one. And so this is staff's recommendation, to conduct hearing, introduce first reading by title only, and waive the reading for ordinance 734, which adopts the addendum to the mitigated negative declaration for the project, as well as adopts development agreement 2120. And that concludes staff's presentation, and we're available for any questions you may have.
Okay, this time I'd like to open the public hearing. If anyone cares to address the council, may come forward at this time. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing. Are there any questions from staff? Do you have any other information you want to share?
Anything you would like me to share?
Has the developer said anything about the fees?
They grumbled and then signed.
I imagine they grumbled and then.
They grumbled and then signed. Yes. Yeah, these were fees that were created in conjunction with city manager's office, public works, and again, the 10,000 fee is an outside amount. We don't think it's going to be that high. It'll actually end up being lower, but it was a way to give them some assurance of what the outside amount was, so that they could start working on their financing with some assurance.
Is that in addition to the other fees that we may have for developments?
Like our
Yes, Steve, let me answer. Member Pro Tem, this is City Manager Gonzalez. Correct. We will be undergoing the AB 1600 Nexus studies for other fees associated with development impact. And so there's language in the development agreement that would capture future fees should the city council adopt said fees as part of the Nexus study. So it does, it doesn't include a specific amount, but it does stipulate language in the development agreement that once those fees are adopted, they will be subject to paying those impact fees as well.
Any other questions? Not hearing anything?
Make a motion approved.
What was that? We closed the public hearing. Yep. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Council Member Caesar Lopez and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Givens to introduce first reading by title only and waive the reading for ordinance number 734.
Yes.
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 Yes. The management reports, the first item is the license agreement with American Refuse for use of the former corporation yard.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council, in anticipation of the Core City residents being converted to three-cart waste collection service provided by American Refuse, staff identified a benefit and need to having this hauler stage and store new containers at the former corporation yard located at 550 North Shafter Avenue. It's advisable and cost effective for both the city and American Refuse to enter into a license agreement for this temporary use of city property. Such an agreement has been prepared by the city attorney, who happened to have another client that signed a similar agreement for the exact same type of application. American Refuse has reviewed the template provided by the city attorney and is supportive of entering into this agreement. The term of the agreement would be until the transition to three-cart service is complete, which shouldn't last more than a year. That's right now, that's subject to state review. We'll let you know if that changes. And there's no site improvements planned with this use of the corporation yard. So tonight we request authorization to approve the agreement and execute it with American Refuse. And I can, of course, subject to final review and approval by the city attorney. With that, I can answer any questions.
If there were any interest in that property, is there a way to get out of this? Just in case? I mean, I don't know that it would move that fast, that it would change all of theirs, but
There would
6
be,
months.
I would anticipate there would be substantial phase 1, phase 2 environmental work to do, which we could do concurrently,
yeah,
but there shouldn't be any reason why this arrangement should last longer than a year. And I think that due diligence on a potential long-term
Project.
use would take longer than that.
yeah, that's right. Just thought I'd bring it up. Any other?
License agreement's only meant for a year. It's not indefinite. It's just a year.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, no, he caught me. The first question I was going to ask you was, what site improvements are they going to do? Because it looks horrible over there. But yeah, are we going to do any site improvements to it then? Because we should.
Mayor Pratt brought up the weeds, which we are going to address tomorrow. And we can, if there's anything else we need to address, we can take that on a case-by-case basis. But as of right now, we're not expecting American to perform any site improvements.
And there really is no reason for other citizens to go in. They're using it for storage just to pull them out, right?
Well, American Refuse has floated the idea of having a place in which the public could come in and ask questions face to face of their staff, but those details haven't been worked out yet. Not really anticipating that there's going to be a huge demand for that, but if we see a need, then we'll probably come back to you to have this amended for that type of use.
Oh, right, because I saw that in here too. They could always enter closer to the office space at the other side yard.
That's possible.
Mhm. Okay. Anyway, I'm sure we'll make it work out. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we can entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve it as read.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Gibbons, seconded by Councilmember Lopez to approve the license agreement with American Refuse.
Yes.
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 Yes. The next item is the council consideration of a request on behalf of the Cinco de Mayo Committee to waive Cinco de Mayo event fees.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, as you know, the Cinco de Mayo Committee has put on the parade and festival historically for a number of years. In the past, at the administrative level, these fees were waived. However, in order for the fees to not be considered a gift of public funds, it has to be waived by the City Council. And so this item is before you this evening for consideration of that request on behalf of the Cinco de Mayo Committee for requesting the fees to be waived for the special events permit, specifically an encroachment permit and the park use permit. In order for the fees to not be considered a gift of public funds, a determination needs to be made by the City Council that the event falls within certain categories. One, that the event is open to the public and that it's not to a specific group only. It promotes community goodwill and also further promotes or enhances a positive image of the city. In this case, the event does meet that criteria in that it is open to the general public. The entire community is invited. So it's a public event. It does promote community will, and that it brings the community together and promotes a positive image of the city by hopefully attracting people from the outside, and puts the city in good light in terms of the festival itself. So for those reasons, staff has determined and recommends to City Council that waiving the encroachment permit and park use fees do not constitute a gift of public funds, and therefore we're recommending that the fees be waived, and so that we can notify the organizers, the Cinco de Mayo committee, and they can proceed with their event. All that means is the money they're not having to spend on the fees goes back to their scholarship program that they use these monies to fund. That goes back into the community. So they were basically reinvesting whatever monies they are able to raise from the event back into the community as part of their scholarship program. So if you have any questions, I'm available, but we are recommending for City Council to approve the request of the waiving the fees.
Any questions?
Is this the first time they've asked for this?
No, they did before, and
Okay.
everyone pays the application fee.
Yeah, just member of Mayor Council, for clarification, these were waived at the administrative level. As I stated, the determination that it's not a gift of public funds actually falls on the City Council. And as I read the criteria, that it's open to the public, promotes goodwill, enhances and promotes a positive image of the city. That's the basis for the determination that it's not a gift of public funds.
Make a motion approved.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Givens to approve the authorizing the use with no fees.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, the next item is the fiscal year 2021-22 mid-year budget update and the resolution amending the fiscal year for the operating budget.
So the Mayor and Council, while our finance director, Roger Sanchez, is preparing, this item is our mid-year budget review, as we have provided to you on an annual basis. And so Roger will be providing that to you at the end. We do have just a couple of budget amendments recommending for approval, and Roger will cover those as well. So with that, Roger.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Before you, I'll present a review of the mid-year and also some requests that we have before you for approval. So the process and purpose is for council to approve or reject any specific items that come before you, to adjust or communicate year-end projections, and to communicate any changes in assumptions as well. For financial review and analysis, if they're relevant. And obviously there's government, it's more catered for compliance than business, where businesses, they focus more on profit margins. So a little bit more focus on the compliance side of the government. So the fiscal impact so far, as we do the analysis, is that we do have a few requests, but there's also increase in projections for sales tax revenue, which will be sufficient to cover any current mid-year request. Also increases on the enterprise funds, and they'll be covered by increases on revenues, any related expenses for the enterprise funds. On the general fund, we have a request for 2 patrol vehicle replacements, and this is a replacement because of recent vehicles that were on accidents, and they're no longer available for service. So it would be at $150,000. We also have a request from the engineering department for professional service at $120,000. And we also have some expenses related to the CCF that we no longer want to code things on the CCF. So we're putting things into facilities and also the city manager's department. And so we're requesting for that. And also to conclude the CCF, we're requesting a transfer of $400,000 from the general fund to the CCF to hopefully conclude that that fund and close it. So those for the general fund, total request of $710,000.
So I'm going to interrupt real quick. For the 2 police vehicles, would that not go through insurance?
So we are working with the insurance. One of the vehicles, it's from 2009, so it has passed the expected life. So that's for one of them. The other one that is new, we're working with the insurance to recover some of the costs. You're correct. We're going to recover the cost through the insurance.
We don't know how much.
I don't have that information, but I assume that it'll recover most of it. I think we have a deductible for that car. I don't have that information with me.
Okay. Yeah, just curious, because then it won't be 150. It'll be whatever the cost of the 2 is minus the what we're getting back out of that. Okay.
That's correct. The business development agreement requires a 2.5 million increase, and this is because the projections from during the budget last year, the sales taxes were below what would be a normal year due to COVID. But the reality is that the revenues came in higher than expected on the sales taxes. So therefore, we need to pay additional monies for the business development agreement. So we're making that adjustments. Again, this is in proportion with sales taxes. So we're getting more money on sales taxes. On the refuse and wastewater, we're requesting $124,000 for to outsource the services for refuse. But again, we're expecting to recover that through revenues. And this is because of chapter growth. And similar situation, there's growth, more houses, $50,000 for the wastewater. So there's a recovery cost through the revenues. Some quick analysis that I like to share with you. So before you, we have the sales taxes, and we have the actuals for various years. And as you can see, the 21-22 budget was expected to come below, but now with more information, we know that we can increase that amount just because of what we expect, and that would cover the increases in the agreement and also the request. So it should be in tune with the previous years and slightly above the previous years. The 21-22 year to date, this is just for your information, but the year is still, we're still waiting for collections, but we expect to have the good year, similar to what you see on the budget side. Labor cost. So on the labor cost, we have on the different years, on the 17-19, as you can see, the wages, the health benefits, and workers' comp. So for a total of $14.8 million. So this is for your info. And then we have in different years, you can, for your info, the activity related to labor cost. For the budget, we expect to reach 16 million. Most likely we'll have a slight savings on that once we sort out the workers' comp and things, but this is what was budgeted as well. So for your information, this is what we have year to date for the same year. So again, once we finish the year, we expect to be closer to this year, to this amount, excuse me. Consulting and professional services and legal services. As you can see, the green on the bottom is professional services, and then the legal services for a total of 2.4 million. And I like to show this information because in a way, this is an extension of labor cost. If we think about it, so we ask professionals to help for management of the city operations. And this is what we have so far year to date for professionals and legal services. Power and electric costs is something to look for, especially as you can see, the increases are going up and up. And this is for your info. This is what we have year to date. Most likely on the power cost will surpass the 1.6 million at the end of the year. So this is sales tax versus business development agreements. And this is what we receive on sales taxes, the blue bar. But once we take into account the development agreements, then the top section is what's really left for the city's finances. So this is something to keep in mind. Just for your info, about 80% of the total taxes come from sales taxes. And once we remove the agreements, then it's really about 40% of the sales taxes represent the total taxes. So that's something to keep in mind. They're still way above the cities in the valley, including Clovis, Bakersfield. It still surpasses even after the removal of the, or even after we take into account the development agreements. For context, this is a calendar year 2021 for a total of $19 million in sales taxes. Just wanted to point out that the top 5 performers account for 87% of the sales taxes, the top 5. So that leaves the rest of them for 2.5 million or 13%. So I thought that would be relevant as well to keep in mind. This time, we recommend the council approve and adopt resolution 2854 authorizing and approving the budget amendments that were discussed for the current fiscal year 21-22. And with that, if you have any questions.
Anybody have anything? Good report. No questions? All right, did you have some added amendments or is it all included in?
It's all included on the staff reports. Anything that we're going to be touching the financial system increases or decreases, it's on the staff report. And I presented that on that during the presentation as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want the motion now for the mid-year budget?
That would be nice.
That's what we need. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lopez, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Givens, that we receive the mid-year budget update and approve resolution number 2854.
Yeah, yes.
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 Yes. Very good. Thank you, sir. Next item is the city manager comments and reports.
Certainly, Mayor and Council, just a few items, reminders. Form 700s are due April 1st, another couple of weeks. Please get those in as soon as possible. And then tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. at the Learning Center, we're having the ribbon cutting for the GAF expansion at the Learning Center. And then if you haven't already, please make your reservations with Yasmina, our city clerk, for the Chamber Annual Awards Banquet and State of the City, in which Mayor Prout will be providing a State of the City address to the public. And that's scheduled for Thursday, March 24th at 5:30 at the Chapter 4th Theater. And then one other item, and if Yasmina, you can put up that slide, and I want to bring Roger back up to the podium. Council, I'd like to share with you a tentative budget schedule that Roger and I have put together to get just some, I know it's not agendized, so we're not asking you to approve it, but just to show you some tentative dates of what that could look like. With the exception of March 22nd, all the other budget study sessions would be scheduled prior to the regular council meeting. So you're not having to find available dates to have those budget study sessions. We would just calendar a special meeting prior to the regular meeting, either like 3 or 3:30. And that way we're able to maximize the time with you all on the same day. So Roger, you want to just cover real quick what that schedule looks like?
So, Madam Mayor, council members, before you, it's in front of you. It's a calendar. It's tentative, as mentioned by the city manager. What city manager is proposing is that we have a special council meeting on March 22nd, and where the goals are discussed, and then we dive into other meetings in April, all the way through June until the adoption. So the goal would be to do some analysis on revenues, expenses, capital outlay, and the CIP. Eventually, we would provide a draft of a book, hopefully by June 7th, and with the goal of adopting the budget on June 21st. So that's what we're proposing for budget meetings.
What is,
So
what is the plan for March 22nd? Because you're springing that on us today. What time are you wanting to start? How long is that going to be? Because I do like to speak for myself, but I don't really know how much of March 22nd I can give you.
okay, so this is tentative. So if you have some feedback, this is the opportune time to give that back to us, Mayor Pro Tem. So the 22nd for the majority doesn't work. Basically, as we've done the last couple of years, and as you know, it's a good practice to get some council direction in terms of reviewing our budget principles and goals of what you see. Just in the time that I've been with you the last couple of years, if you recall, the first budget year, 2021, was right in the midst of the pandemic. So our budget was framed around maintaining city services and our service levels. And then last year's budget, 21-22, was recovering from the pandemic. And while we were still looking to maintain our service levels, we were trying to also enhance where we could some of those service levels. The library, for example, is one of those. And so it's having that discussion just to get some policy insight from council in terms of where you see the next budget year going, 22-23. So the 20, in terms of time, Mayor Pro Tem, it'd probably be brief, maximum probably hour and a half. But I think all of you are well versed on what the direction the city is and the direction you've provided me and staff. And so I think within an hour, tops hour and a half is all we would need. But if the 22nd is not available, we can fit that in either the last week of March, or even combine it with April 5th.
Yeah, we can certainly combine with the 5th, April 5th, if needed.
You mean
Yeah, and that
drop the 22nd?
yeah, and that could make sense, Mayor and Council, because the April 5th, it's basically reviewing revenues. So we're not actually starting to build the budget. So we combined the council goals and projected revenues for April 5th. That still works because we would be able to get policy direction from you. And it's not until the 19th, at which time we would be starting to compile the operating budget. And from that point, we would need your direction. But if we got that on the 5th, I think that still meets the timeline in order to put a budget together. So we're certainly open to that.
Will you have handouts prior to? I mean, will we have something to look at before?
Yes, yes. Yeah, Roger's, as you've seen, he's very well capable of extracting data that we need from our financial service, our financial system, and put that together that we would be able to provide to you as much information prior to each of these study sessions that would afford each of you an opportunity to review it, and as well as have any follow-up questions to myself and or Roger prior to the meeting, so that we make those more productive for you and us as well.
Any other questions, Council?
That would work better.
As of right now, I'm good on all those dates. So.
Okay.
So Mayor Council, just for clarification, we are dropping the 22nd, combining the council goals and projected revenue for April 5th. We're just clarifying that point.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And nothing further, Mayor and Council. Mike or any director, if you have anything.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shaft City Council. On behalf of Public Works, I'm going to cover a few things, one of which involves a brief PowerPoint. Once I get the green light to use the clicker, I'll proceed.
Someone's having to work hard tonight.
Honorable Mayor, members of the Shaft City Council, at your March 1st meeting, it was announced that Chapter was one of approximately 100 recipients of the Clean California Grant awarded by the state. A total of $300 million approximately was awarded statewide. Grant applications received by the state were allowed up to $5 million per project. And so this brief presentation will cover Chapter's awarded project and some estimated timelines. So our project totals to $5.31 million. The local match percentage consists of a grant funds of 4.65 and local match funds of 660,000 more or less. So we had a local match percentage requirement of 14%, and that local match varied by jurisdiction. So our particular project covers design, permits, and utility services, but the bulk of the project is attributed to construction. We have pretty shovel-ready projects to move forward with. And the grants, as far as the grant schedule goes, the state has led us to believe that funding agreements will be available as early as the spring. And then provided that happens, then we'll have essentially 2 years to complete our project. Now, our project is made up of 5 individual sites in the historic core of Chapter. The first project site takes up the bulk of the funding. It's the improvements to the Chapter Aquatic Center. The project estimate is approximately $2.4 million. And most of this work is going to be taking place at the exterior of the pool site. We plan to replace the pool deck, resurface the pools, both the competition pool and the children's pool. We're going to replace the pump motor and heating system and add a new shade structure, as well as improve ADA access. Now, these the way we listed these proposed improvements in the grant application were consistent with an assessment that was prepared by a consultant. We're awaiting the final report on that assessment. But just to let you know that we had a preliminary draft of that assessment, and we used that to prioritize the improvements. There's a minimal amount of work that's planned within the locker room. We'll be replacing some fixtures and maybe improving the walkway, improving access inside the facility, but the bulk of the work will focus on making the pool operational. Moving on to project site number 2, we're referring to this as the James Street corridor project, but it also involves Stringham Park. This is valued at $1.1 million. One phase involves installation of decorative street lighting to replace the drill pipe standard that we have on James Street. That's a little outdated and it's a little worn out. So we're going to try to achieve a look that's consistent with the decorative lights that are on Central Avenue, but offer lights that offer the versatility of hanging flags, mounting cameras, but maintaining the look that you see with the Central Avenue lights. We have plans to develop a parking lot at the south end of Stringham Park, and we're listing for transit use, but really the parking lot is going to make park use a lot easier, and we're not going to be losing the recreational factor of the park. In fact, with this grant, we're going to install a new playground, a new shade structure, and replace the irrigation system. Project site number 3 is replacing the equipment at the skate park at this just south of the youth center. Replacing what was classified as temporary equipment installed 10 or 15 years ago is basically what this project consists of. We're going to be utilizing equipment that's meant for long-term use, and it is a lot more accessible and really meant for this type of application. To encourage and make use of the skate park a little more enjoyable and comfortable, we're proposing a shade structure as well as exterior lighting, so the Shafter youth can use the facility in the early evening hours. And we're also planning to install a ADA accessible drinking fountain.
Are you doing the landscape around it too, like you've seen the picture?
We have we're planning, not to that extent. We're calling for trees and some minimal flower bed type of landscaping.
No DG around the area just to clean up the weeds and the general
That's a good,
mess.
that's a good suggestion. And we're, this will be tackled with the design phase. And probably when we get to the design phase, we'll kind of walk you through and maybe help prioritize what you want to see there.
Thank you.
Project site number 4 is Mantle Park. This is just consisting of replacing the interior lights within the park. The current lights are operating beyond their useful life. Replacement parts are hard to come by. So we plan to replace the interior lights with a more modern energy efficient standard, which should actually illuminate the park better. And we'll have, again, ADA accessible drinking fountain, and we're planning to upgrade the electrical service and access at the gazebo and shade structures for people who want to use those facilities and need access to electricity.
Can our grass look like that too?
I'm sorry.
Can our grass look like that too?
Maybe with the new irrigation system that's coming with the other grant.
I believe you. I believe it's going to happen.
Finally, project site number
Sure,
5
we
is
don't have
Veterans
to.
Park. This particular phase or this project consists of the installation of walkway lighting, mostly along the west edge of the park. But you see a lot of people walking around the perimeter of the park, and having these lights here will make that easier and safer at night. And so this work is valued at $175,000, and in addition to the other sites, we'll be installing an ADA accessible drinking fountain. Finally, as far as timelines and objectives go, assuming we have the funding agreement from the state this spring, that will allow us staff to prepare and release RFPs for design and other professional services. At this time, we're thinking we're going to package this grant up into 2 projects. The Aquatic Center will likely be a standalone project. And then we'll try to group the other park sites into one project that will ultimately go out to bid. If we were able to release the RFPs and to procure professional services this summer, that allows us to move into the design phase in the fall and reserve all of 2023 for construction, and allow us to complete and accept the projects by March, a few months before the state deadline. And until we receive the funding agreements, we're not sure exactly how we're going to be able to conduct bidding, but we are going to look into possibly, in the case of the Aquatic Center, focusing on the pump, motor, and heating system as a preliminary phase to get that operational, so we can possibly get the full functional as early as January of next year.
Nice.
And then once the swim season is over, we can fall back on the pool deck and the pool resurfacing. But until we have that funding agreement, we're not really sure exactly what kind of procurement policies we're supposed to follow. But with that, that concludes a summary of the project that was awarded and how we prepare to implement it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Pretty aggressive on the state side, huh? We have to have them first before we can get started, huh?
Correct.
So that's the only thing that could be jeopardizing the fact that the pool could not be ready then for January of 2023.
Correct. There's the pool deck was probably the largest issue flagged in the assessment prepared by the consultant, and that will essentially require that we, just take the whole site, decommission the whole site, and so again, we're trying to look at the possibility of maybe replacing the pump and motor and heating system to at least have that functional, and then fall back on the other improvements after the swim season.
So they could swim in it then.
Possibly, but until
Yeah,
we have
try
that
to.
funding agreement, we're not really sure exactly what our timelines are going to be.
Well,
They can't do-
the high school is really ones that really want to have that by January, so that
That's
would
correct.
help. Mhm.
They can't do a repayment on it, so we do the work and they pay us back for the work
Yeah.
through the.
Serious, I don't think the state's going to allow us
They
that
don't
flexibility.
No.
Curious. Heard no.
Yeah, that's not usually the way it goes now. Well, let's hope that they can at least get in the water. That will help a lot in transporting those kids as far as they have to go.
You think Wonderful will give us a credit line?
Yeah. No, 'cause then nobody pays them back.
Oh, we might.
But we'll, as soon as we have a funding agreement, we'll have it on an agenda for your review and approval. And then hopefully at that time, we'll have a better understanding of how we can conduct this grant and how we can package it for bidding.
maybe you could tell them that they could be the big heroes and we'd just be right behind them to move it along for us. Our community would just really love it. I hear it often when you're out. Just really needs to. So that is one could be fast track. Okay, any other comments, city manager?
No other comments? So we're ready for closed session.
If I may, before we go into closed session, Mayor, you brought up the bulky waste event on April 2nd. I just wanted to point out that's going to be from 8 to 12 at the pool parking lot. And then March 26th at Farm Park, which is a Gossamer Grove Park, there's a dog park component to that, and they're going to have a dedication. I think this was brought before the council a few months ago, but we ran into some delays. But that dog park dedication is scheduled for March 26th. There's going to be a ceremony planned at 11 a.m. And if you plan to attend, they'd love to have you. The organizers would love to have you, but just please, if you wouldn't mind letting the city clerk know so we can prepare ahead of time.
Any questions, council? Okay, then we will go into recess to go into closed session. 2 items, conference with real property negotiators for negotiating parties is the LGV coupling under negotiation for price and terms. Do I need to state any more than that? No. And then the second one is for real property negotiations with rail and the industrial parcels between Burbank and 7th Standard Road.
Mayor, I will recuse myself from closed session item number 2 as I work for Wonderful.
Okay. I need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and it's 7:02. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. Okay, we'll be in the closed session.
discussion. He had a conflict of interest relating to his employment with one of the negotiating parties. But with respect to item number one, conference with real property negotiators concerning the property located at 250 Carver Street, City Council heard a presentation from its negotiating team. We have no reportable action. Also with item number two, conference with real property negotiators concerning the properties listed on the agenda, the rail and industrial parcels between Burbank Avenue and 7 Standard Road. City Council minus Council Member Givens heard a presentation from its negotiating parties, and we have no reportable action. That concludes the report.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a
Almost
motion
done.
and a
Hey, which
second.
way you going home?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? See, you never give up on us, Caesar.
No, there we go.